Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Chaudhry. I hope you're safe and well. Today I'm carrying on my series looking back at this year of 2020 and trying to find out what positives we can get out of the year and what learnings we've achieved, and also look ahead to 2021 and look at what some of the trends might be. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Andrew Anderson, who is the VP, and I've got to read this out, Informatics and Scientific Software at ACD Labs. And we would have been actually talking to Andrew on a beach in San Diego, but he just told me it was too cold to do the beach today. So we're actually not on the beach, but we are still in San Diego. So Andrew, lovely to see you. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very, very good, actually.
Wonderful.
Thank you for taking the time out to catch up with me and give me your views on the year, so this year, and also looking ahead to next year. So before we start, though, there will be people out there that go, well, who are ACD Labs? So perhaps you could tell people a little about ACD Labs and also a bit about your background as well, because it's not just been at ACD Labs, it's got an interesting background as well. Thank you.
Yeah, no, well, yes, Advanced Chemistry Development. We are a scientific software company serving a variety of industries. A large section of our customer segment is the pharmaceutical industry, of course. We have three categories of applications. Primarily, some of our largest growth has been in the shortest way to describe this is how customers and scientists really leverage analytical data as part of their decision making, their analysis. Ultimately, they're supporting their product lifecycle, and we help with the digital ways that folks will interact with analytical data. We also have a wealth of prediction applications as well. That's part of our Percepta brand. The analytical segment of our business is captured by our Spectrus platform, and we also offer enterprise related services and customization support for how folks implement these capabilities within their infrastructure.
Right. And in terms of your role, how long have you been in it, and what's your background?
Yeah. So I am responsible for the introduction of new products at ACD Labs. I've been in the role for 5 years. I started my career as an analytical chemist, working mostly in an NMR lab. It did some what at the time was called open access support. So this was at Pfizer. And then I moved into a regulatory affairs role. I was a regulatory CMC specialist at Pfizer, supporting early development, what we at the time called exploratory development, from the candidate nomination all the way through to end of phase 2. And then upon completion of business school, I started in business development roles. Coincidentally started my career as a salesperson at ACD Labs. Worked for a variety of software and automation companies. My last stop before this role was actually in a technology scouting and alliance management role at PepsiCo, which was my foray into the non-pharmaceutical industry, which was fascinating. Learned a lot, did some cool projects, and came back to ACD Labs in my new role in 2015.
Brilliant, thank you. So it's always good to get that, because I think a lot of people who watch it will go, actually, what scientific background do these people have who are talking here? And I think it's always good to sort of give that sort of context in terms of your background knowledge. So let's talk about 2020. I know it's been a very, very difficult year for so many people out there, but what I wanted to do is try and look at some of the positives out this year. So let's start, though, with a really simple question. How would you describe 2020 in one word?
You know, maybe I'm feeling nostalgic this morning. But I was telling a friend of mine last night about a personal story for me. If I had to summarize my feeling about 2020, maybe it's because of the end of the year, maybe because I'm an optimistic person, but I try to look at the positive of things, and I'd say inspiring, right? And for one reason, which is this. My last project in regulatory affairs at Pfizer was supporting an IND submission to health authority that would commence a phase 1 study. That was in, I believe, December of 2001. So we celebrated December of 2001. If you fast forward then 10 years, December of 2012, I see an email in my inbox, and this was while I was at PepsiCo. Hey, remember that IND you submitted? Well, the drug actually got approved 10 years later, right? And fascinating, right? So a 10-year clinical development cycle. And yeah, not all clinical projects go that long. Certainly there are shorter ones, but I think it serves as a testament to the hard work that the pharmaceutical industry en masse has really accomplished this year. If you look at some of the hard work that's gone into these vaccine therapies for the coronavirus, you know, the first time I heard about coronavirus was, you know, early in 2020. And the fact that we have, you know, as of last week, an emergency use authorization for the Pfizer vaccine, as well as, you know, what we expect to see the next couple of days for Moderna. AstraZeneca is on the way, and a variety of other therapies are on the way. That should be inspiring from my perspective. So I'm you know, looking forward to 2021. It was a challenging year for sure, but you know, maybe I'm fueled with optimism based on what I've seen in the market and industry that my company focuses on, and you know, we can all look forward to 2021 with some degree of optimism.
All right. Well, look, so some questions about this year. So that, I mean, that's
Sure.
great to hear, though, and I'm glad you said it has been inspiring. So, as a business, when did you start planning for the pandemic? What did you have in place already to
Yeah.
actually deal with it? And what did you have to change as a business to adapt to the
Yeah.
new reality, if you
Yeah.
like?
Well, two aspects about ACD Labs that were important for our transition. Number one, we are a globally distributed company. Our staff resides in, you know, quite a few different time zones. That's for sure. Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia, North America, of course. So we had a variety of capabilities prior to the effects of the pandemic impacting our business and how we operate. Like, we had a lot of, you know, collaboration tools, and like, what I think we looked at first and foremost, and this started, you know, early first quarter 2020, we had to consider how we were going to interact with our market, our users, our customers, the beneficiaries of systems that we implement, the folks that influence collaboration and ultimately engagement with our client base. So looking at how we interact with those stakeholders in our success was our primary focus, as well as how we collaborate internally, looking at ways to, certainly without the ability to get together physically, how to replicate some of our physical interactions that require a physical presence, and how to best replicate that digitally. So that was our primary focus. We did certainly invest in our infrastructure to allow for virtual, non-physical collaboration, both with customers and with internal colleagues. So that was a big focus for us.
Right. Okay. And if you look at the market,
Yeah.
has the market changed a lot since March from your perspective, or, you know,
Yeah.
because you're already in the technology company, obviously you already were talking about technology. So did you see business increase? You know, has it stayed the same? What's happened in terms of the market
Great
from your
question.
perspective?
Yeah, so we have seen certainly an increase in interest, and I see two reasons for that. One is that how scientists are doing work, like the future of work, the definition of work is changing. Now, there were already, I think, signals or indications that work was already changing, okay? And if you go back even 10 years ago in the pharmaceutical industry, you saw a push into externalized research, right? So the need to virtually collaborate was already there. I see another trend in the industry that I think also unrelated to the pandemic, but the pandemic kind of accelerated interest for us, and that is the degree to which experimentation can be done in an automated fashion by utilizing robotics equipment, dispensing equipment, automated experimentation equipment, generally speaking, the ability to digitally interact with that automation equipment. So the digital interaction capability really allows for that interaction to be remote, to be away from the lab. And so we've certainly invested and developed products that facilitate that type of the implementation of that type of work paradigm. So we have seen an uplift in interest in those products for sure. Moreover, during the early days of the pandemic, one thing we did was invest in a fair amount of engagement with our clients. So webinars and power lessons that our staff has conducted to continue to interact with customers in absence of being able to go on site and meet face to face. I wouldn't say surprisingly, but perhaps encouraging or really a testament to our strategy is that we've seen a really significant uplift in attendance and interest in our technologies and products. But I think the reasons are certainly COVID related, but also just trends in the industry that we see.
Right. Okay. And in terms of positives, I mean, you mentioned obviously from a personal perspective, you use the word inspiring because of the way the industry's got together. So, but what would you say are the main positives that you can take out this year, both, from a business perspective and an industry perspective, as well as, from your own point of view? Great
question. So, indeed, if you look at how we are able to, how do I put this? If we look at how scientists are able to continue to get good work done, to glean insights, to conduct experiments, when you consider the disruption that the pandemic has caused, I think our tools have been leveraged to continue to, at a minimum, at least get to effective decision making where certain experiments or certain decisions require the use of particularly analytical data. So if I had a time machine and went back to, say, 2019, my fear would have been, okay, how are scientists going to leverage our software in the future, right? In absence of getting into the lab? And so it's, from my perspective, it's reassuring that we can see this at a minimum of level of support. Yes, it's certainly disruptive, right? Not being able to get into the lab, but our users, we're one small piece of helping them make sure that they can make effective decisions, that they can leverage analytical data as part of that decision making in their efforts. So for me, that has been a significant win for us, absolutely. But I also think a win for society in general, I suppose.
Okay, and looking again back, what learnings do you think you could take from this year which you could carry on into next year as well?
Yeah, so maybe this isn't necessarily just an ACD Labs thing, but I've thought a lot about this in discussions with lots of people, both customers and colleagues and coworkers and friends even. But how does the future of work change even when we're not limited in our social mobility or work mobility due to the coronavirus? Let's hope for the vaccine technologies to help with making that future a reality. But how does work change, right? With all of the collaboration tools, digital collaboration tools that we've all invested in, right? Rizwan, you and I are talking with one of those tools as an example, right? And so I think about, can we leverage the learnings from this year and apply them to make our lives generally easier? Will we have to go into offices in the future? Will we have, or can we, continue to leverage digital capabilities? I think what we'll see is, certainly physical presence and collaborating with friends and coworkers and the like is certainly, you'll see an increase in that, right? The minute we can. But then looking at, where are there inefficiencies? Do we need, and if we're thinking about, folks that invest in physical buildings, facilities, et cetera, how will facilities utilization change in the future, particularly for innovators? I think there's a balance that we need to look at and strike. But I think we'll see change irrespective of like where that balance is along the spectrum of physical versus virtual.
All right. Well, that's good way to segue into sort of looking ahead to 2021. So what do you see, and I don't even know if ACD Labs have got a view on this as well, but what do you see personally as the new normal going to be going forward? And also then, what do you think the key developments and trends are going to be next year?
I think certainly two themes, two categories that I see as both, impacting our kind of human behavior as well as like scientific innovation. Okay, two areas for me are increased utilization of automation, particularly in the scientific experimentation world. We will continue to see, increases in what is done by scientists in the lab versus what is done by equipment and robotics in the lab. You look at where I believe that 2020 serves as a testament almost to some of the efforts that are going on in high throughput experimentation and automation. Parallel synthesis as an example. We've certainly seen an increased interest in the degree to which folks want to automate some of their synthetic activities. Certainly, and that runs across the product lifecycle in the pharmaceutical industry. I'd say the second big push is digitalization, right? Being able to reduce as many document-driven processes, document-driven decision-making requirements into digital ones, right? Having access to data on demand to facilitate effective decision-making will be another trend that is reinforced again by 2020, and I believe we'll see an increased investment, we'll see increased interest in digitalization efforts, particularly, and I've written about this quite a bit this year, is, if you're missing, as part of your digitalization strategy, if you're missing how analytical data can be leveraged, that's a significant gap from my perspective. And so being able to leverage analytical data in those industries where analytical data is key to decision making, we'll see, I believe, increased, let's call it accounting for analytical data in the strategy efforts that are undertaken by industry stakeholders.
Right, fantastic. So finally, this is your chance to be like, what do they say, the queen with their Christmas message. So what message would you give to all the viewers watching here now in terms of for 2021?
I would say what inspires me, whether it's in my personal life or in my professional life, is that if we have established what our true north is, either professionally or personally, putting our heads down and doing the work is, for me, really important. I've said it a number of times, like being that I am part of a innovation department within ACD Labs, I say to my team and I say to our stakeholders here that ideas are great, but without the hard work of turning ideas into actionable things, whatever those things are, the work is the hard part, but the work is the payoff. I don't know, that is what keeps me going, right? Is just keep my head down and do the hard work. The world can be turbulent, certainly, but if we confront those challenges and the fear that a turbulent world will bring, and I try to confront those challenges with grace and poise, I like to say to my team. I think it will be difficult, but the reward of that hard work is realizing one's vision, either personally or professionally. So, I hope that folks recognize that 2021 it will be challenging, but there are also plenty of opportunities for personal and professional growth and satisfaction. But I think it's all dependent on keeping your head down and putting in the hard work.
Great. Well, look, thank you for that. And I do agree. You need to be positive in your outlook, but be committed as well
Absolutely.
to get things all done. Well,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry we weren't at the beach because I was looking forward actually to seeing the sea lapping behind you
Oh,
actually in San
wouldn't that have
Diego,
been
but
great? Yeah.
it would have made it. But didn't get that, but we did get your views. So thank you very much for that, Andrew. I appreciate taking time out
My
and giving
pleasure.
your perspective, particularly given that you're involved in the data and the digital area. That's quite useful. So given that has had such a big impact in
Mhm.
terms of this year and the I think the speed of the way digital has been now accepted within the industry.
Mhm.
Um, and really force people to start taking note of how to use new technology, whereas before they might have been a bit reticent or a bit
Yeah,
cynical about it, but now they've had to just act on it through no choice of their own, maybe.
right.
So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I hope, viewers, you found that useful. If you've got any questions for Andrew, so you may agree with what he said, you may think he's talking complete rubbish as well. So, but whatever, the beauty of this is it is one person's perspective, and you can agree or disagree. But we'd love to hear your views as well. So, particularly around the digital technology that Andrew was talking about and the acceptance of it within the industry. So, if you've got any views, any comments, please put them below the video. And Andrew, if people want to know more about ACD Labs, where can they get more information?
So first convenient place is our website, and that's acdlabs.com.
Brilliant. And but if you've got any questions, put them below the comments, message Andrew directly. He will be tagged so you can ask him any questions you've got as well about technology. And as always, Andrew, I wish you a fantastic festive season and a wonderful start to 2021. And as always, I say to everyone stay well and stay safe. That's the important thing. And until next time, and hopefully we'll get to see each other again in the new year.
Yes.
Thank you for your time and stay well, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.